Think the oldest cities are in Europe? Think again. This is Jericho, and people have lived here, been conquered, and rebuilt here for over 11,000 years. That's older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids, older than widespread agriculture. Most people know Jericho for one thing: the walls coming down. Joshua chapter 6, the trumpets, the marching, the collapse. But here's what's really wild about Jericho. It keeps dying, and it keeps coming back. Conquest after conquest, empire after empire, layer after layer, and it's still there. Let's explore the city that just won't stay dead. To understand why Jericho matters, you have to see where it sits. This is the Jordan Valley. You're looking at one of the lowest points on Earth. Jericho sits about 800 feet below sea level. To the east, the Jordan River. To the south, the Dead Sea. And to the west, the central hill country of Canaan. Now, if you're coming from the east, from Mesopotamia, from the Transjordan, and you want to get into Canaan, this is your front door. But here's the problem. This valley is brutal, hot, dry, and barren. So why would anyone want to settle here? Water. There's a spring here, es-sultan, and it's been flowing for thousands of years. In a landscape of rock and sand, this one spring created an oasis. Date palms, agriculture, life. The Bible even calls it the city of palm trees. And because it's at the gateway into Canaan, anyone who controlled Jericho controlled access to the entire region. That made it valuable. That made it worth fighting over. That is why people kept coming back. Modern archaeology at Jericho goes back over 150 years. Charles Warren first explored the site in 1867. Ernst Sellen and Karl Watzinger excavated in the early 1900s. John Garstang dug in the 1930s. And Kathleen Kenyon, one of the most methodologically groundbreaking archaeologists of the 20th century, conducted major excavations from 1952 to 1958. Today, Italian and Palestinian teams continue the work. What they've found is remarkable. This site, Tel es-Sultan, isn't just one ancient city. It's layer after layer after layer of cities, built on top of each other over thousands of years. And the oldest layers go back further than anyone ever expected. Around 9000 BC, before pottery existed, before agriculture was widespread, people were already building permanent structures here. Circular mud brick houses, hearths, and most remarkably, a stone tower. The Tower of Jericho is 28 feet tall. It has an internal staircase of 22 stone steps. It was built around 8000 BC. This tower stood for over 5,000 years before the first pyramid was built in Egypt. Nothing comparable in scale or complexity has been found from this period. We don't know exactly what it was for. Defense, flood control, maybe something ceremonial? We're just not sure. One study found that on the summer solstice, the shadow of nearby mountains would fall on the tower and spread across the whole settlement. Whatever its purpose, whatever this means, it tells us something important. This wasn't just a camp. This was a community, organized, building together, planning for the long term. And they chose this spot because of that spring. Now, there are ongoing scholarly discussions about how to date specific destruction layers, particularly whether certain Bronze Age destructions line up with biblical chronology. That's a conversation for another episode. What matters here is the bigger picture. People have lived, built, been destroyed, and rebuilt at this same location for over 11,000 years. Most people know this city from Joshua chapter 6, and for good reason. But this city appears throughout the Old Testament in ways you might not expect. Before the Israelites ever crossed the Jordan, they camped on the plains of Moab, right across the river from Jericho. This is where Balak hires Balaam to curse Israel, and where God turns those curses into blessings. From up on those heights, Balaam would have been looking down at Jericho. Joshua 6 is the famous one. The Israelites cross the Jordan, and Jericho is the first obstacle. Fortified, shut up tight, and God tells Joshua, march around it. 7 days, 7 priests, 7 trumpets, and on the 7th day, the walls fall. This isn't just military strategy. This is a statement. The first city in the Promised Land falls not by siege weapons, but by obedience to God. And Joshua pronounces a curse. Cursed before the Lord is the one who undertakes to rebuild this city, Jericho. Generations later, we find a Moabite king named Eglon ruling over Israel. And where does he set up? The city of palms, Jericho. It's from here that Ehud, one of Israel's judges, assassinates him and liberates Israel. Jericho just keeps showing up at transition points. Later, David sends ambassadors to the Ammonites, and they're humiliated. Their beards shaved, their garments cut. David tells them, stay at Jericho until your beards grow back. Even in shame, Jericho is a place of waiting, of preparation. Remember Joshua's curse? Centuries later, during the reign of Ahab, a man named Hiel of Bethel rebuilds Jericho. And the text says that he laid its foundations at the cost of his firstborn and set up the gates at the cost of his youngest. The curse came true. In 2 Kings, this is also where Elijah and Elisha cross the Jordan. Elijah parts the river, just like Moses, just like Joshua. And it's on the other side of that crossing that Elijah is taken up into heaven. Elisha returns alone through Jericho. Do you see the pattern? Jericho marks transitions, entrances and exits, beginnings and endings. It's where Israel enters the land and where the greatest prophet of the northern kingdom leaves it. 11,000 years. People have been living here since before writing existed, before the wheel, before almost everything we associate with civilization. It's been burned, conquered, cursed, abandoned, rebuilt, destroyed again, and it's still there. There's something almost stubborn about it. The spring just keeps on flowing. The location keeps mattering, and people keep coming back. For us as readers of Scripture, Jericho reminds us that these stories happened in real places. Places with geography and history and water sources and strategic value. Places where the decisions people made to march, to wait, to rebuild, to obey, had real consequences. And then there's a theological thread here too. Joshua, in Hebrew, Yehoshua, leads God's people across the Jordan and into the Promised Land, beginning with Jericho. Centuries later, another Yehoshua, or Yeshua, Jesus, will lead his people into an eternal Promised Land, a place where the pattern finally breaks, where death doesn't get the last word. The city that kept dying and coming back foreshadows a resurrection that never ends. This is Jericho. 11,000 years. Dozens of destruction layers. Conquest after conquest. And still standing. If you want to explore it for yourself, see the terrain, the timeline, the biblical connections, head to otincontext.com. You can zoom in on the tell, see the excavation history, and trace Jericho's appearances across the Old Testament. I'm Scott Smith. Thanks for joining me. In the next episode, we'll be tackling one of the biggest questions in Old Testament studies, the route of the Exodus. I'll see you then.